we are making our predictions for the main event of UFC 320, which is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev 2 in the rematch. It's me, Gabriel Gormley MMA, and Fight Me Bro MMA. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, do all that. We need to make a living. But so if I'm making my predictions for this fight, if I look at this fight, obviously the first fight happened the way it did, and I did think Ankalaev was going to win, and he did. But it was obviously a very competitive fight. But what was most surprising about that fight was that Ankalaev outstruck Pereira, like flat out. And you can look at that and say, oh, it was because of his takedown threat that he did well in the striking. But I mean, that still means he did well in the striking. This is an MMA fight. You can't just act like the takedown's this separate thing. It's like, yes, it would aid it, but his striking is good nonetheless. And if I look at the striking that they had between each other, because Pereira did like stop all of the takedowns, if I believe, or maybe one, or on, I don't know, he didn't get taken down, I don't think, but he obviously did get clinched. But this fight was won in the striking, and if I'm looking at the striking that occurred in that fight, I think Ankalaev just beat him so beautifully because he stopped a lot of the areas in which Pereira was best at. And I think, well, the most important factor is the fact that Ankalaev is southpaw, and Pereira obviously is only going to fight orthodox. He doesn't really switch stances that much. And that meant crucially that the leg kick was not as effective because Pereira couldn't connect with his rear leg effectively. So he was doing leg kicks, which are obviously not as powerful. And you could see that in the fight. Before that, everyone would go to the Ankalaev Yan fight and be, oh, his legs are going to get destroyed. But that didn't happen because Pereira only did lead leg kicks. So I don't think that's really going to change. And if he does roundhouse kick or no, rear kicks, I think that's just going to leave him more vulnerable because he's not going to do it from a southpaw stance. So I think the kicks aren't going to change. And also, another way in which Ankalaev beat him was that what Pereira uses to gauge distance is by trapping the hands, which has been seen in, for example, his Jamal Hill fight, where he's able to, touch your hand and be able to gauge the distance. But what Magomed did, which was so smart, was that he had this sort of bounce feint where he'd go in and out and wouldn't let Pereira touch his lead hand and would actively fight it and move his hand off to the side. And this meant that Pereira could not gauge the distance, which meant that he wasn't as confident in initiating attacks and in his counters. And this sort of explains why his accuracy was down a great deal. And then there's also the fact that Ankalaev did have the takedowns, to mix it in with. And just the fact overall that Ankalaev is way faster than Pereira, I think, which could be seen as, Ankalaev was able to move out of the way of many attacks and just counter him like with beautiful combos. And there's a lot of times that Pereira didn't even seem to really react just because Ankalaev was that fast. And that could be partly because Pereira is getting old. But so yeah, I think in this fight, the ways that Ankalaev, beat Pereira was essentially putting him on the back foot and pressuring him, making him afraid of the counters. So I don't think Pereira can win the fight on the back foot because you can't really counter Ankalaev that well from the back foot. But I think the only way he has a chance of winning this is by being aggressive with the striking, and that sort of seems to be what they're hinting at his game or his team are hinting at. That's seen by, clips of him on the pads. But I think the trouble is that being aggressive against Ankalaev, who is a very powerful puncher and a very great counter striker, means that you're putting yourself in danger. So then it becomes very 50-50 who's getting knocked out. And honestly, with Ankalaev's speed and his power, I think we could see potentially a knockout because Ankalaev did hurt Pereira very badly, if we remember. And as we've seen in a lot of Ankalaev's rematches, like Johnny Walker, who yes, doesn't has a horrible chin, or and there is another fight, I forgot it. But anyway, he like in the rematches he was able to counter and KO them cold. So I think that's a very big threat against Pereira, and I'd have faith in Ankalaev to be able to do that. So I think Ankalaev would win putting Pereira on the back foot and would have a great chance of winning if Pereira coming on the front foot. And then also there's the fact that I think that Ankalaev's wrestling may potentially be more effective in this fight because he'll obviously be able to make adjustments from the first fight with Pereira's takedown defense. And Pereira might be thinking too much about the striking because he obviously got beaten badly there last time. Well, not badly, but um, so then I think, Ankalaev could make adjustments in the grappling that could win him a round or two. And overall, I just see Pereira. I think Ankalaev's sort of the perfect solution for him because Pereira. He has good takedown defense, but he is a striker. He's not a complete MMA like artist at the top level of like championship level, whereas Ankalaev is. And I just think Ankalaev has more ways to win. He's younger, he's faster. Pereira is, on the latter end of his career. And it's very rare that fighters who are older have won the rematch. So in conclusion, I'm going Ankalaev either by dominant decision 49-46 or even potentially a KO. And I hate to say that, but no more Shama.
No, hey, man. No, that's real, man. We just have to be honest with ourselves here, you know. Our hearts want Alex to win, but our brains know that Ankalaev, he's just at an advantage right now. He's gonna go in with more confidence because he even said in his interview that he was confident that he was winning the fight. I mean, the thing is with these fighters, they tend to be, I don't know, a little too overconfident. No, 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 I wouldn't even call it confidence. They tend to kind of just overlook their opponents, or at least give their opponents the impression that they're overlooking them, so that they can get in their heads. I mean, Alex Pereira was believed that he thinks he did enough to win. Like he believes he did enough to win, and I don't know, man. There were some people that thought that this fight was a robbery. I remember right after it happened, me and my brother went on Instagram, went in the comments, and then some dudes were like, how do you win just by hugging or just by clinching? And I mean, like, bro, did you not watch the end of round two? Like, bro, let's be honest. If we're gonna go back to that fight and ask ourselves at any given point in the fight, like who looked like they were imposing their will more. I mean, knowing that Alex Pereira, who normally fights on the front foot, was on the back foot, knowing that two of the hardest strikes in the entire fight were by Magomed Ankalaev, like with that info, you tell me what the only logical thing to conclude is that it's that Ankalaev got the better of the exchanges. Was it somewhat uneventful? Yes, at times the fight was a bit boring. I mean, when they did throw, they landed and things looked pretty cool. But for the most part, I think they were just so focused on winning on points. I mean, both of them were point fighters. Yes, Alex Pereira is a knockout artist, but with his leg kicks, he likes to break down his opponents. And then when he sees an opening, he goes for that left hook. And yeah, it just didn't work against someone like Ankalaev. And I knew that going into the fight, I'm ashamed to admit that I thought Alex was going to win. I genuinely did. Because looking at Ankalaev's career, right, there was this narrative that he's this Dagestani boogeyman, he's going to grapple. Like, if he wasn't from the Caucasus regions, right, and he was from some place like America or something, people would look at him as a kickboxer. But knowing that he's from Russia, people just assumed he can grapple. And yes, he's displayed grappling against fighters like Jan Blachowicz and whatnot. But I think it's because the light heavyweight division is so trash that we have to rely on that performance for us to be like, okay, this dude's a grappler. I mean, I could make the very same argument for Rafael Fiziev out grappling Ignacio Balmondez. Both of them aren't notable grapplers, right? So I would say Ankalaev gave off that impression. I knew that his grappling isn't the best, and it showed because he didn't take down Alex Pereira once. Alex was the one who actually managed to take him down. But I knew that he was going to be able to win some grappling exchanges because let's face it, Alex Pereira is relatively inexperienced. I wouldn't be surprised if Ankalaev has twice as much MMA experience as Alex Pereira. He was fast tracked in the UFC. I mean, dude had 4 fights before he got a title shot. So sure, he was inexperienced, but he was working with the best in the world, that being Glover Teixeira. And I felt like they complemented each other because Alex already knows how to strike, and his glory kickboxing translated well into MMA. What he really needed was a grappler, and Glover Teixeira is one of the best. He was winning his fight against Yuri Prohaska up until he got finished. So I knew that having someone like Glover in his corner was going to be a very, very key role in him potentially beating Ankalaev, but he wasn't able to. And after watching the first fight, I was like, okay, Dad, I don't see Alex winning the second fight because we've already established that Ankalaev is a better boxer in the pocket. Sure, Alex has his low kicks, but when he's on the back foot, we just don't see him landing those. It's potentially what contributed to him getting clipped in the second round. Because if you throw a leg kick simultaneously, which he didn't, but I think he was being mindful of like the low kicks, and he neglected his defense and he got caught. Because you saw he hesitated a little bit and then boom, Ankalaev capitalized on that. And like you said, he's much faster, Ankalaev that is. And that's going to be a key role in the second fight. And especially knowing that Alex is not a young guy, you know. He's about to be 40 very soon. I mean, he's about 38, if I'm not mistaken, 37, 38, somewhere there. And I know we're in the light heavyweight division where age has proven to be not as important of a factor as it is in the lower weight classes, right? I mean, you have DC, was a double champ at age 40 something. I think he beat Stipe for the first time at age 41, which is just unheard of because Stipe is the heavyweight GOAT, arguably. So Alex might have some success even at light heavyweight, just like Jan Blachowicz did in his fight against Carlos Ulberg, that a lot of people think was a robbery. I personally don't, but I think the fight was competitive. With that being said, I think Alex Pereira's only chance is to catch Ankalaev, which I think he can. But I don't think Ankalaev is going to leave any openings for that. We saw he constantly keeps his hands up. He constantly circles. I mean, heck, man, was he circling? He was walking down Alex Pereira. He sunned him, bro. Like I hate to say it, you talk of like this no Chalma, and you're right. Chalma time is over. It's Big Ank time. It's Ali Abdelaziz running Ankalaev's Twitter. It's that's where we're at right now, and yeah, it sucks, but I have to respect Ankalaev. He is a talented fighter. He's on his